Hi and welcome to AXSChat. Today we have a gaming special, so it's a bonanza. We've got extra people, extra confusion. So welcome back for the first time returnee, first ever, is Ian Hamilton. We've also got Bryce Johnson from Xbox and Tara Voelker. So we've got the game studios, we've got the accessibility person, and we've got the console here. So fantastic. Thanks for joining us, guys. I'm really excited because it's a great topic. And I'm delighted to talk about gaming once again on AXSChat. Ian instigated this. So Ian, do you want to tell us why you wanted to come back? Was one time just not enough?
Always a pleasure. But yeah, I mean, I guess the main reason is just because there's been such big changes since we spoke last. I mean, every year the pace of change of accessibility in gaming increases, and it's been no exception at all.
Mm. Yeah, I think when we talked, we talked about the scale of the industry and how massive it is, and how it's bigger than the music and video industries combined, and so getting it right is really, really important. So I'm very interested to hear. Obviously, we've heard your story before in a bit, but I'd be really interested to hear from both Bryce and Tara about how you came to get involved in accessibility.
Sure. Tara, do you want to go first?
Oh, putting me on the spot. Okay, yeah, so I actually got into accessibility when I was a freshman in college. I actually had a teacher at the time who was, she was actually a chairperson of the IGDA Game Accessibility SIG at the time. And I'd always been a gamer, and it basically, she introduced me to the world of it, and it resonated a lot with me because I was in a severe car accident when I was young. And gaming was what I did to get through that. And just kind of like, I remembered how much I struggled while just being injured, and like realizing there's a whole group of people who like they dedicate their lives to trying to make this better. Like that's when I became interested in it. And I wasn't actually going into gaming.
Ooh. You seem to have frozen, Tara. Am I the only one that's seeing Tara as frozen?
No, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
There she comes back. Okay, cool.
I don't know how much that you caught. I'm sorry, I froze.
You know what? We caught up, Tara. We heard about how your accident, you know, how the gaming really made a difference. So maybe you could pick up from there.
Oh, yeah. So, you know, at the time I wasn't even considering going into game development. I was actually studying biochemistry, but it really resonated with me like, wow, I get this. People need to do this work. And then later when I wound up in game development anyway, I was just like, oh, well, I'm here. I guess I can be the one that tell people that they need to start doing this. So that's it. I kind of fell into it in a weird way, but it just worked out nicely.
Always interesting to see where our paths take us, right?
Yeah, I don't think any of us started off in life thinking, you know, when I grow up, I want to be an accessibility person. Maybe next generation that'll be cool, but it wasn't a job I even thought about when I was growing up.
This group certainly helps make it more cool. So, okay, Bryce, you want to go next?
Sure. So before coming to Seattle to work at Microsoft, I'm from Toronto, and I used to do a lot of management consulting. And I used to also hang out with someone who really influenced me as far as getting into accessibility. His name is Joe Clark. He wrote a book on web accessibility back in the day, and a little bit infamous, but a really sort of excellent guy. And the first big project I did that was focused on accessibility was I designed the first digital library for the CNIB, for the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. And that project basically took me beyond what the standards sort of said into like what people actually needed. So that project wasn't like a general accessibility compliance project. That project was like, I'm designing something for people who are blind and low vision. And that really just gave me a new perspective. And then when I came to Microsoft, I kind of bounced around here at a few different jobs, and I bounced around here a few different places. But in Xbox, I've got the chance to focus on gaming accessibility, just because I've been basically trying to beat that drum for a long time. So they finally said, "Here, you do it." So.
I can empathize with that. You keep talking about it here. It's yours. Do something with it. So I know Ian's right in that I keep hearing announcements about new accessibility developments in games all the time. What are the things that you're working on at the moment? What are the things that we can expect over the next 12 to 18 months to see in terms of improvements in accessibility of consoles and then Tara in games as well?
Well, I can't talk specifically in time periods about what we're putting out, but I can certainly tell you that there is a huge sort of focus at Microsoft on improving making our products more accessible. I think that, as you can imagine, with things like software and especially web development, there's a much more, the path has been laid. We know how to make websites accessible. There's no notion of like the W3C for game development. We have a lot of different platforms, and we have a lot of different middleware companies, and we are basically trying to do to piece this together in a way. So we're at a point where we're basically breaking ground in a lot of ways. But I can tell you things that we definitely love to hear from people, and we want to hear about what we are doing and how we could be better. Like, say, improving narrator on the console or improving high contrast on the console. We know that we need to get those into games, and we're talking with game development teams about making sure that game developers and game designers start thinking more inclusively. And we're working with them on doing that. So.
Okay. Thank you. I realize I've been remiss because actually, whilst we know who Ian is, viewers may not. So, Ian, sorry, let you introduce yourself.
No problem. All right, I'll keep it short for the people who've already seen the other one. Yeah, so I'm an accessibility specialist. I got started through actually working in kids games for preschoolers, like Teletubbies, that kind of stuff. And through that, this was working for the BBC at the time, who've obviously got a really strong accessibility culture. So it's kind of expected that everybody who works there has some kind of involvement. But gradually I started working on projects that are for preschool kids with really, really profound learning difficulties and motor impairment. And from there, when time came to leave the BBC, started looking around and seeing kind of the work that we've been doing wasn't really reflected in the rest of the industry. So that kind of drove me into moving more into advocacy, as well as working directly on games as well. So I now do a lot of kind of awareness raising and working with the industry bodies and platforms and middleware and that kind of stuff, as well as the working directly on games.
And we had Ian on before, so people can go back, and he was one of our first guests. So you can go to AXSChat.com and see the really, really amazing interview we did with Ian, about a year and a half ago, right, Neil?
Yeah, it must be getting on for that now.
Yeah, it'd be interesting contrasting as well, because some of the things that we were talking about in that, so things like middleware, things like consoles, I mean, that was just kind of pie in the sky back then, and now it's actually happened.
Yeah, which is exciting.
Yeah, and the primary reason for us getting you back, because the pace of change has been phenomenal. So Tara, from a games developer point of view, what are the things that are you working on right now what are the things that you can tell us about that are in the pipeline?
Well, let's see. So I currently work on Evolve Stage 2, and our big thing right now that we've been doing is it's really worked out well. So we recently came out as free to play on Steam, and now that we can update daily, we can do all sorts of changes. And like we've done everything from, we did remappable controls in colorblind mode, but now we've been like revamping our visual language and adding new stuff in. But we've made game accessibility and specifically colorblindness so much more aware in our pipeline. It's really great that like a concept artist will be like, this is going to be the new effect for our new character. And then our visual effects artist will be like, whoa, that's not going to fly. Like, so it doesn't even make it past the concept phase anymore. Whereas previously, like, it made it all the way in game and shipped, and then someone in the forums would be like, oh, this isn't colorblind friendly. And then we'd have to patch it into colorblind mode, which was a ton of work. But now, like, it doesn't get that far. So, like, I don't have, like, any one thing that's like, oh, this is the accessibility feature we're working on. But it's a lot more of, like, they're learning as a studio. And then I think a lot of my work outside of Total Rock is really just teaching developers, like, just because the consoles can remap on a system level now, which is great, doesn't mean you shouldn't put remappable controls in your game. Like, that's a fail-safe, not a proper answer. And like teaching people how to do subtitles, because video games are so bad at subtitles. Just trying to educate everyone, like, look, if they can't read the subtitles, like, why are, like, it doesn't matter that they're there then. So those are my two features that I'm always trying to, like, get people to work on correctly. I'm sure Ian would agree with me on subtitles. He's seen them. He knows how bad they are.
Yes. Yes, that's the one answer, yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It's frustrating to see as well, because that's the thing. These like, how to present subtitles and closed captions, that isn't some new problem that needs a load of R&D. You know, if you just shift your head slightly to the side and look at other screen mediums, you know, TV, DVDs, and stuff have already solved these kind of problems. So actually, developers can save themselves a load of work and give people a much better experience at the same time.
And so, Ian and Tara, we obviously on here understand what you're saying is very valuable. But how do doing these things also help other gamers that don't have disabilities? How can the subtitles help them? I immediately know myself how to do it, because I have a lot of gamers in my family, but coming from the experts, how does this help other gamers when you make sure things are accessible?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is these features aren't just going to help, you know, gamers with impairments. Like, they're great for the entire player base. There are other people who are going to use them, especially, like, I talk about subtitles all the time, but that's one that if you're in a loud environment, if you have a roommate that's trying to sleep, a baby you don't want to wake, maybe you're playing on a bus on a handheld, like, that's something that other people are going to use. And I think that's, one of the things that people really need to grasp. Like, these features improve everything for your entire player base. It gives it a better experience. Like, in Evolve Stage 2, when we started cleaning up our visuals to make them easier to see, like, that didn't just help people with low vision. Like, other gamers like that too. It gave our other gamers a better experience. So, like, these things affect all of the player base. But, even if PopCap did a survey that found 1 in 5 casual gamers, has some sort of impairment that affects the way they play. So, like, that's 20%. Like, what does it matter? That's 20% of your player base. And it's going to help more than that. Like, just do it. Come on.
Yeah, with the subtitles specifically, there was a survey that CNET did. It's completely unscientific. It was just kind of a straw poll on their website. But the figure they got back was 79% of the respondents said they played with subtitles turned on. For all kinds of reasons, the kind of stuff Tara was talking about. Also, even just because the audio mixes in games are unpredictable. You never know when an explosion can go off and that obscures a bit of sound, or if English isn't your first language, all kinds of things. And that's it's not unique to subtitles at all. You see that across the board with all kinds of accessibility features. Yeah. There are obviously some which are really specific to a niche group, but generally speaking, it's about offering some reinforcement, communicating information through an additional means, which is just helpful for everybody.
So when you are doing all these changes, are you able to see any improvement in the side of the user engagement, in the user satisfaction, or in the growth of users within the platforms?
I can sort of answer that one, or try to answer that one. And it's not. We are seeing growth. We are definitely seeing engagement. But since it's so early, it's very difficult to kind of pin down how much it is, how much is attributed to any one sort of specific feature over something else. And I know that that's something that we have to do better at Xbox, is basically figure out how to properly track which features are causing improvements. And I mean, at the same time, we need to figure out how to track, but we need to be very, very, very aware of people's privacy, and we do not want to invade on people's privacy. So that's some of what we're trying to figure out, and that's when you have an end-to-end solution like that's from the platform to the game. We can do things like say, well, this number of aggregate users has narrator turned on, so we can start to. We don't have to ask someone their condition, but we can basically we can infer things based on the assistive technologies that they have turned on.
Cool.
Sure.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that kind of data available from within individual games as well. And there is a bit of a trick to it in how you actually tie that feature to a specific demographic. So that example of narrator is a perfect example because there aren't really going to be very many people outside of people who need it for an accessibility reason for that audience that are going to turn on that feature. So you can make a fair guess that actually is the number of blind people using your game, and it kind of seems obvious in hindsight when you think about it, but the figures you get out of it are not really what you'd expect if you would just translate the number of people who are blind into the number of people you'd expect to see in a game. The number is always much higher, and it's just because you're addressing underserved markets. So if there aren't that many games that are available for blind people to play, they're all going to jump on your game.
Yep.
So you've seen, what was the game? Mudrammer. Yeah, that was a nice example. So that's like a mud client, which is like a kind of like a text version of World of Warcraft, which is obviously quite easy to adapt to screen readers. And developer, he spent, I think it was 2 days adapting it for iOS, and he was expecting, maybe I might get 1% of my player base playing it, roughly in line with how many people are blind. And he chucked in his single line of code to track how many people had voiceover turned on. It actually turned out to be 14% of his player base.
Wow.
And another nice example was another iOS game called Solara. Theirs is a really visual strategy game. And they did a similar thing. So it was built natively, so they were able to adapt it to be compatible with screen readers. Stuck in their one line of code to see how many percentage of their players had voiceover turned on, and that was more like about 1%, kind of more like in line with what you expect. However, that 1% were spending much longer playing the game, and were spending much more on in-app purchases than other players as well, because they're more loyal. So they were their highest value players out of any of the demographics.
Wow, that's powerful. It goes back what Tara was saying earlier. I know when I don't program anymore, but I programmed for years. And to program the type of systems I was building and leaving out potentially 20% of the users, or even 14%, like the numbers you just used, Ian, it was unthinkable. We were spending so much money on these systems. Why would we build something that large numbers of people wouldn't be able to use? So it's exciting to see how you continue, like I think Bryce said, you don't have the roadmap, you don't have the WCAG, you don't have the standards. You're figuring it out as you go, which, by the way, is what we would expect from gamers. They're very creative, state of the art. So it's really exciting to see everything that you are doing, and that we're actually learning more ways to help the games be more interactive by making sure that everyone, including people with disabilities, can use these games. So I'm excited about the future.
Well, I think it's just a really natural fit for the games industry, certainly compared to other industries that I've worked with. There seems to be a much higher proportion of people who are in game development for the right reasons. Who basically are really passionate about their vision reaching as many people as possible. So accessibility is just a really natural fit for that.
Yeah.
And I would certainly agree with you from my personal experience of working and playing casual games, that actually there are communities of people with disabilities that form within these games, and they're tremendously loyal. I ran a clan, and I think I've mentioned this before, in a game on my phone, which I played for years, still playing it 5 years down the line, and 30% of my clan turned out to have some kind of a disability or be caring for someone with a disability. It's not like I'd advertise what I do for work, because I have my own gaming persona and it's not me. But it was quite surprising, and people look out for each other as well. I think that's another aspect. When you enable people to form these communities, it's a really powerful thing. there was something that we brought up last time that you covered off, Ian, and I'd like to revisit, and that was the idea that games are sometimes by their very nature inaccessible. So because you're challenging people to do stuff. So where is the balance? Where's the right balance to strike between challenging and impossible?
Well, that's the thing. That's the trick to it is well, it ties in a bit with what Bryce was saying about kind of WC3 and stuff. Because with other industries, whether it's web, whether it's construction, there is like a set bar of this is what an acceptable level of accessibility is. And the things with games is that what's acceptable level actually varies completely from game to game. So what would be a really, really easy, simple thing to solve, like in a turn-based strategy game, for example, avoiding any need for precise timing, dead easy, will help loads of people. If you go and play a first-person shooter game, that doesn't quite apply. So it's a case of having to evaluate each individual game on its own merits. Look at that mechanic, which is really nice because it means that it's always a design problem-solving issue, rather than you can't really have it be like a checklist compliance approach.
And the one thing I would add to that, when we talk with game developers in particular, it is about getting away from compliance. Gaming is supposed to be fun, so when developers come up with solutions that basically meet the need, you kind of have to ask yourself, like, is that enough? And I have to kind of push on our people to basically say, listen, accommodation is not enough. And, we're here to all have fun. And that feels, it's funny when I talk with people, about what we try to do here, I use the word fun a lot. And I don't think people in the industry like the word fun. They say like engaging and all these other things. And I'm like, no, fun, Fun. So yeah, so we try to embrace fun, and really tricky. The community's doing it's fantastic.
So I have the details here if you want a shameless plug. It is gamesurconf.com/EU, and it is on the 30th of September.
Fantastic. So if you can send me that, we'll bung it up on the website as well, so people can check that out. Because the more people that get to go and see these things, the more we can infuse people and continue to grow the community.
So speaking of community, one of the things that I'd like to talk about that we're doing here at Xbox to kind of foster community is we have something coming out that started basically from a place where we were trying to group like-minded people together to go out and play games. I don't think it's any secret that online gaming can be rather toxic. You can kind of get a lot of people out there that want to ruin the fun for everybody. So we're putting in right now, basically in our preview program, we have two features that we are promoting. One's called Clubs, and the other's called Looking for Group. And Clubs is basically a way that people can kind of self-organize around interests and sort of play with like the people that they want to play. And Looking for Group is basically the feature that enables you to find those people that are like you, those like-minded players. So those are two sort of things that we're really hopeful will help us basically and get people to engage more. I think like when people can play with people that are like them, that they have affinity with, we'll get a lot more engagement.
That sounds great, and I think that there's certainly a need sometimes for somewhat ring-fenced communities, especially when you do get that kind of somewhat toxic behavior.
Yeah, and I think that the challenge that we have with clubs when we're talking about seeding them with the right information, we don't want to basically say like this is a club for the hard of hearing or deaf people. We don't want to do that. That doesn't feel right. So one of the things that we look at is we basically say when we think about these attributes, we think about things like I don't use chat. Like I would like a club where chat is not required, or I would like a club where chat is required. And
Sure.
so we're hoping that we can, we're hoping that these things will help people sort of find the people they want to play with.
Yeah, that sounds good. So, Ian, I know that you also had an announcement that you wanted to make as before.
Yeah, similar actually, along similar lines to the user research summit in London. We're actually getting together a little mini conference just about game accessibility. So we've been working that with Tara and a couple of other people. So that's going to be happening on the 27th of February in San Francisco. So that's going to be on the Monday of GDC week. So if any developers are watching who are going to be in town for GDC, then that's going to be happening then.
And for those of us that are mere mortals, that's game developers content, isn't it?
Sorry, yes, game developers
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. And I've got no
I have a question for Tara.
Go for it.
Tara, I love the story that you were telling about your personal, walk and the accident that you got in, and how it really changed the path of your life. What would you say to other young gamers or other people that aren't sure the direction they want to go in, but they wish that they could follow the path that you and Bryce and Ian had gone down? How would a gamer that's passionate about social impact, making a difference, and really wanting to make a difference in gaming, where do they begin?
So I think that's kind of like a two-step plan. And step one is obviously get involved with a community that you're passionate about. There are amazing communities that you can join. Like for a while, I was in competitive fighting games, and they are some of the most amazing people I've ever met. And finding out how open and encouraging, and they are honestly some of the best people that I've ever engaged with. So find a group like that you can be a part of, that will support you, that will help you play, that'll help you find other players. And then from there, like when you find a group like that that's good people, like if you just make the case to them, like they'll get it, and then they'll become your evangelists too. Even one of the really exciting things about the Turtle Rock forums is after we started releasing these accessibility features, like I became the accessibility lady. Like we started having people in our forums who understood accessibility, knew what it was, and then people would come in and be like, hey, I'm interested in this feature, and like next thing you knew, it could be just like a generic feature. It wasn't like necessarily accessibility per se, but like the players would see it and they'd be like, that could also be used for accessibility. Tagging Tara, she's your champion, I'm doing that. Like, so if you can find other allies within your group, like it spreads the message. So it's been, with Turtle Rock and our forum specifically, it's been really fun watching that happen. Like just finding gamers out in the community who are like, oh, I get it, I'm gonna help now. So cool. Like that's it. So find a good group of people, make them your allies, and then they'll do the same thing. And then like, we'll just infect everyone.
Good.
A good virus.
A social good virus, I love it.
Exactly.
It's like
been really nice to see that spreading as well, because even just going back say 5 years or so ago, that kind of thing just wouldn't happen. If somebody was posting about accessibility in a game forum, there'd be so much vitriol and stuff from people who just didn't understand and had misconceptions about how it was going to break games and that kind of stuff. So seeing communities actually turn around and actually support fellow gamers has been really nice to see.
I think that, I'm an older generation, but I really see a lot of the younger generation saying, well, why wouldn't we include everybody? It's like, you don't have to use the same, well, let me tell you why. It's like, well, tell me why I wouldn't, really. So I love how the evolution's happening, and I like what Bryce said. It's got to be fun. It's got to be fun. It's a game. Of course it's got to be fun. But we can actually do great social good by having fun. We really should have fun. It shouldn't be a death march. It should be a joyous experience we have. So it's exciting watching the work that you are doing. It's very exciting, because I think what y'all do, and I'm almost sure this is true, but Ian, I know you know, what y'all do actually can be turned around and put into the more serious things that we develop for society, that businesses develop and things like that. I think society is learning so much from what the gamers are doing.
I echo that, Deborah. I think it's really important, and I think that actually we all learn through play. You know, how do kids learn? It's through play. So actually, we've got a huge amount that we can teach society through gaming, and people, you know, absorb stuff without thinking about it too much. They may be going in for entertainment, but it's there, and it's something that they pick up, and they're just sort of absorbing that positive attitude. So thank you for the work that you're doing, guys. I think we're pretty much at the end of our time. So once again, thank you for taking time out. I know it's Labor Day out in the States, so half of the people here should be on holiday. So really appreciate you joining us today. So thank you very much.
Shows their dedication. They're so dedicated
That's right.
to changing the world and making sure everybody has fun. I love it.
I'm going to be honest. I forgot it was Labor Day when I signed up for this day.
But she would have been here anyway.
I would have.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
You were amazing.
Thank
And
you.
we knew you were going to be amazing, too.
See you on Twitter tomorrow night. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.